evening, Will. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your journey to this point in your life with drums. And I want to learn a little bit from you about what got you to this point and what your challenges were and the good times, the bad times, and just so that you might be able to help others on their journey. So firstly, huge congratulations.
Thank you.
What happened this week for you?
I completed my grade 8 Trinity exam and I've received my marks, which granted me a distinction with 89 out of 100, which is very exciting for me. Put in a lot of work, in my opinion.
So distinctions are the highest level that you can get, and grade 8 is obviously the highest grade in the grades.
It was difficult. It was very difficult.
It was difficult.
It was very difficult.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions. Well, let's go back in time actually, and then we'll lead up to this exam and what's happened. Because I just want to paint a little bit of a picture for anyone that's listening as to a bit of to do with your backstory, what your life's been. So how old were you when you started playing?
I believe I was 9.
9 years old.
9, year 3.
Year 3. And what got you into it?
I think my big brother had started playing guitar, and like most little brothers, I wanted to do what my big brother was doing, but obviously couldn't play what he was playing, so went through a couple of ideas, and Mum and Dad eventually settled on the drums and fell in love with it.
What made you fall in love with it?
I don't know. I wish I could put a finger on it.
Yeah.
But I think at the point where I'm now with drums, it's like any instrument really. It is just how much it helps in your life and how much you love it. But I don't know what made me fall in love with it. I think I more fell in love with music than I did with a specific instrument.
That's interesting.
But now that I can play drums, I mean, I obviously wouldn't choose anything else.
And tell me, so what is it about music that you've fallen in love with?
Well, with my music listening, I've gone through, like lots of little kids, gone through many stages. Stages like where I listen to Dad's music and stuff like Neil Young and Warren Zevon and stuff like that. And then I listen to lyrically based stuff like some Dead Kennedys, which is some not very easy listening, but that was one of the bands that I listened to a lot and fell in love with the lyrical side and its effect, how blatantly it can affect people's views and the influence on people. And then coming off that, listening to a lot of, on the other end of the spectrum, listen to a lot of jazz, which in my opinion can do the same thing without the words. So, yeah.
And how does both the jazz and both the more lyrical pieces that have influenced you over the years, how do they make you feel?
They make me feel a lot, and I think that's why my range of listening to music has widened so much, is because each piece of music or each group can invoke different feelings, and then the more you listen, the more you want to feel different things. So it depends. Usually I listen to how I wake up, the feeling I'm waking in, how I wake up, because I listen to music on the bus every day, and I'll listen to something different every day. So depending on the mood, how I wake up, it'll decipher what I'm listening to instead of the other way around.
Interesting. So your mood will dictate your listening habits.
Yeah.
As opposed to your listening habits having an influence over mood. Your mood will be set first, and you'll use music to sort of complement.
At the start, yeah.
At the start.
Usually it can wane once I start to listen to the music. Different songs can get you onto different feeling music, but it's usually.
Tell me, now that you're in the shoes of a tutor and not just student, what are the characteristics of an ideal student? What characteristics does a student that might be able to reach your level, what do they possess and what do they have?
I think a student, not a necessarily naturally talented student, but more an interested student. So someone who has a genuine interest to get better at the instrument that they are playing. And it's something that you unlock that knowledge at different points for some people. And for me, I think it would have been a couple of years ago where you learn it. What I noticed is I learned one thing. I think it was last year. I think it was grade 7, and it was where my drumming had taken a step up with the technicality of it, and something clicked where I learnt that learning was the best part, and unlocking those massive steps to your drumming was the best part. So I think a student that can learn that earlier would be the best student, because then the role of a tutor becomes more of an influencer than a teacher. It's more it's more self-directed, if you will.
Now, I've had the privilege of being able to tutor you for a number of years, Will. If I could ask you for 3 words that pop into your head about your experience of learning with me, with Be Rhythmic, what are your 3 words?
3 words.
How you would summarise, it would encapsulate how you feel about learning drums and what it's meant for you.
I think, as basically it is, I think helpful would be a massive one. I think that learning drums is not just learning drums. It's learning. You learn discipline, but you also learn a skill that just helps so much, especially going through high school, when you just have a million things happening. It is in my opinion, from my experience with high school as well, and I know Bron's seen a lot of that. It helps so much. Like, I can't put words to it. It's when I come home and I'm angry or upset of the day or got a bad mark. It's not. I don't sit down. I don't do anything else. I play drums, and coming and doing all this work for the grade 8. Even this last week. From doing an hour of practice every afternoon, I now come home and play drums with my eyes closed, not thinking about anything, just playing drums for at least half an hour. And the difference between walking into the room and starting to play drums, my feeling then, and then walking out, it's like having a walk on a beach somewhere for 2 hours in the quiet, walking through a rainforest or something. It's sublime. It's unreal, and it's corny. It's gonna sound very corny. I know that, but it's hard. It's hard how there's not really another way to explain it.
I think it can sound corny to people that maybe haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
But once you've experienced that level of elation, once you've put in a great deal of work and you've sort of popped out the other side.
Yeah.
I think for anyone that's gone to those kind of lengths of achievement, then it doesn't sound corny at all.
Yeah, that's true.
You sort of smile and go, "Yep, I know that feeling."
Exactly. Yeah.
So helpful was the first word, and thank you for going in and explaining more about that, and discipline and school and things like that. What's the second sort of, I guess, theme or thing that when you think of drums and learning drums or learning a musical instrument?
Well, I think all my 3 words would really tie in with helpful. I think music knowledge would be a big one. Something that, another thing that I've only really learnt with the starting learning the marimba is the how much there is to learn about music, and how much, again, you want to learn when you discover how much there is to learn. And I think that has been unlocked with the years that we've had lessons.
Yeah.
Just the sheer scale of music itself, really. and when I think about drum lessons and drums, it's what I think about. I think about learning a new thing.
So it's more like the more you learn, the more you realise
The more there is to learn.
there's more.
Yeah.
There's more to learn.
Yeah, that's it.
Totally. And what would be your third area? So we've got helpful, and we've got that ongoing sense of understanding that there's more knowledge out there when you sort of break through more levels of knowledge. What else is a feeling that you're left with, or experience that you feel that really encapsulates your experience of learning drum kit and learning a musical instrument?
I'm not sure. I'm struggling to find a word for it, because it's always been obviously always been a subconscious feeling that I've had through learning drums.
Let's tap into that then. Subconscious. You mentioned the word subconscious. When you talk about subconscious, what do you mean?
Well, like all these words that I'm only just starting to realise on, I think this is my 7th or maybe 8th year of drumming.
Yeah.
And that is that all these learning habits are happening without me knowing, without me saying this happened today and I learnt something new, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost, it's hard especially as kids to realise or put a name on what you are learning and when you're learning it. And it's also hard to trust, because I know parents know that you're learning, and they can see that you're learning, your tutors can see that you're learning, and a lot of the time you're the only person that can't see your progression because you're just doing it, and it's a subconscious progression. And that's what I found so helpful about the grades, is because there is literally, like, there's a sheet of paper in front of me that says and has a number on my progression almost.
Right.
Which, I mean, obviously would not help for everyone. I know 1,000 musicians that would hate that and hate the exam process and everything about it, but for me personally, having those stages and those goals so distinct and outlined is something that helps visualise that, and then gives you some self-confidence in that as well.
Tell me a little bit more about your goals and your process for setting goals, and how you broke sort of things down to achieve your goals, or how you reached your goals.
Well, it's something that I feel goals are more and more necessary depending on the amount of work, which I know some people might not agree with, but I think you know within yourself how much, you really do know how much work you have to do, whether you ignore it or not, because I know with my school exams and subjects that I particularly enjoy, I will pretend like I don't have a lot of work, but I definitely do, and I know that I'll need to do more work than I say that I need to do.
Yeah.
And that's why when you have a real interest in it, you know how much work you need to do, and you will do that work because you want the end goal. So really, I think goals should be deciphered by the student, and if the goals that are set aren't up to par, there will be a point where the student realises that. Whether it's too late, who knows? But they will know how much work there is to do.
And just to finish up, if you were to pass on advice to a young student
Mm-hmm.
who's just starting out drums,
Mm-hmm.
and a student that has gone through maybe a couple of the lower grades, and they're wondering about, they might hit grade 4 or grade 5, and they're like, wow, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Can you just talk to me, I guess, in two ways? One, to the young student who's just starting out, what advice you would give a young person?
Yeah.
Like, think back to the 9-year-old Will.
Yeah. Right.
What would you tell that 9-year-old Will?
Right.
And secondly, what would you tell another student that is thinking, this is starting to get hard now. How do I navigate this challenge?
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Look, that's something that I hear a lot about, and I've seen with even some of my friends. But again, I think it's up to the person, really, the personality of the person. But it's when you hit something difficult like that, which I have probably with every grade I've done, really. You do think, is it worth it? Because it's really worrying, and for some, the initial response can be, and from parents as well, can be, is it going to take away the student's love for music?
Sure.
But I think if it's necessary, you can wait time. You can always wait time before you complete your goals, or like an exam. But my advice would be really, I think one thing that I wish that I learned earlier is to listen to a lot of music. Obviously, this is something I wish I learned a while ago. Is to listen to a lot of music, but listen to a wide variety of music and get as many influences as you can in terms of drummers. If you have a favourite band, learn the name of the drummer of your favourite band and YouTube videos of them. I remember starting out and I only knew the name of one drummer, and that was Chad Smith, and that was the drummer of the Chili Peppers. And that was my favourite drummer, and now I'd like to think I look up to drummers like Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, even some contemporary drummers, but that's another element that comes into developing your own sound as well when you move on further with your own drumming. But it's going to be those influences that will decipher whether you go down the exam path or you don't. But I would take comfort in the fact that if you had more than two drumming influences, that you would not give up drums. You would not give up the music instrument, because you're always going to be thinking, we're always going to be thinking, I want to play like them, and you're always going to be listening to their drumming, and whether it is, and even if it's something like finding a song in the exam that sounds like one of their songs, or even sounds like, if you can pick out traits of the drummer's technique or style, and you can pinpoint those areas, which would be difficult for a younger drummer, but it's...
On your journey, what age do you think you were, or what level of exams, or what grade at school were you when you actually started to take an interest in doing your own research and looking into other drummers?
For me, it was late. I came very late to this realisation. For me, it was probably last year in year 10.
Yeah.
Year 10, for me, I've spoken to you a lot about, was a rough year. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
And that was where I turned to music completely, and for me it was the only thing that stopped me from dropping out almost, which I probably never would have done, but never would have the guts to do it, but I would have been a lost cause pretty much if I had not found music.
So it was a sort of strength.
Absolutely.
That you could turn to.
Absolutely, fully. And being able to pinpoint those influences and apply them to the drum set is even kind of a personal goal. You don't have to voice it, but if you can play along to the track and sound like the drummer you're listening to,
yeah,
that is as good as completing a grade.
Yeah.
In a minor sense, but I think that's a big thing, is listen to a lot of music, get influences, and that will most certainly drive your love for music and drums.
I wasn't going to ask this, but it's just popped in my head.
Okay.
And I've had people ask me,
right,
when I've been interviewed, where to now?
Right.
And often you feel very put on the spot because you're like, haven't thought about that. I've just got to this amazing achievement.
Yeah.
But if you did fast forward 5 years' time,
right,
say, I know next year you've got your HSC.
Yeah.
How do you think music will be in your life?
Well, I know I'll still be playing drums. I know that. Whether it's on a practice pad somewhere in an apartment or whatever it is, probably still in Mum's house. But I think I would personally, I'd love to be playing music with other musicians. I'd love to be playing gigs. I'd love to be making my own music. But I'm also hoping to study music, which was a big decision for me to decide to do that. Only because it is just so terrifying to really put yourself out there as a drummer and into a world of other amazing drummers, which is probably the biggest fear, is that you will be drowned out by the other talent. But I'm excited for that. I'm excited to play with other musicians and develop my skills even more through more learning, because that's what I have decided that I like, is the learning.
The learning process.
And that's what made me choose it, is I can't see myself stopping learning or putting an end to that. So I think I have to, really. It's like a moral obligation to continue this learning. So
keep searching.
Yeah, absolutely.
How fabulous. Will, from the bottom of my heart, I am so incredibly proud of you, from the little 9-year-old boy that I met to what has now become a completely accomplished musician. A young person, you've still got your HSC ahead of you, which is just incredible. I have seen you grow on so many fronts, and all those areas that you were talking about, those areas of sort of discipline and helpfulness, and how that sort of translated through your life, and I've seen that happen. And now the proof is in the pudding with this excellent and very difficult to obtain result in grade 8. I just want to say thank you, and I want to say good luck. I believe in you. The whole team at Be Rhythmic believes in you, and I can only see sunshine and rainbows ahead for your future. So keep up the incredible work, Will, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rod. Thank you.